Uh-oh, I'm not in the right one, guys.
And welcome everybody to episode 12 of the Sunday Night Astronomy Show. Here we are again on another cloudy night. Um, clouds, clouds are appearing as we speak, and we've got a little bit of rain out there as well. So we're just not able to offer anything live again tonight. But we are continuing on with the show. The show must go on. So we're going to watch comments here as they come in through. This evening, I've got Royal Astronomical Society member Paul Owen here with me from Hampton. Hey, Paul. Click on Paul
Hello.
there. Here he is. And we have Mike Powell, Royal Astronomical Society member as well, of New Brunswick member.
Good evening.
Paul is in Hampton and Mike is in St. John. And we're changing our format up just a little bit as we move through our programs here, our evening shows. We're finding out what works and what might not work, and what we're going to be offering on nights that seem to be mostly cloudy nights. So what we're going to be doing is offering different kinds of talks. Tonight, one of our talks will be offered by Mike. Mike is our Mike Guyver. Mike's the miracle worker at all of our regular events, star parties or whatever. If you ever get stuck, you need a couple of nuts and bolts or an extra eyepiece or something dropped on the ground and it broke, you go to Mike and Mike fixes you up. And over the years, Mike has gained a lot of knowledge about how to make things work easier and cheaper. So Mike is going to do our first talk on that topic. He has several different fixes along the way through. Hopefully, it'll be a weekly talk as we move through our talks here. And also after that, we've got Rosanna's fun facts, some facts about space that we like to introduce. I'll be doing a talk on a small scope for beginners. It's behind me here right now. It's an Orion 4.5-inch tabletop Dobsonian reflector telescope. A great beginner scope, so I'll be featuring that. Paul is going to give us a little bit of a talk on the beautiful picture he captured the other night of the Horsehead and the Flame Nebula in the Orion Molecular Cloud Complex. And also a possibility that he'll be offering us a shot of his wide field rig that he's setting up for now for more astrophotos. After that, if we have enough time, we're going to get into a What's Up talk for what's coming up next week in Stellarium as well. And we've got some photos that people have offered to send in to the page as well. So we'll be showing some of them. And we'll get into how to send some photos in the future. I have a Gmail address all set up now, so you can actually send photos into that, and we will feature your photos on the following broadcast. So if everybody's okay with all of that, I'm just seeing comments come in here. Good evening, everybody. And welcome to the show again. And somebody said, I'm admiring Mike Stormtrooper in the background. We're always admiring Mike Stormtrooper, for sure.
Yeah, I've been showing up on the screen the whole time for some reason.
Well, I'm clicked on you. Here we go. Here, we take it off there. Here.
We're going to go back to me in a second anyway.
Yeah, we are. So we're all set for you, Mike. If you want to go ahead and give us a cool talk on what you've got to offer for us tonight.
Well, first off, I'm going to offer this.
Let's bring that
Somebody
back up.
liked my Stormtrooper, so I just thought I'd throw it out there.
Excellent. Like it.
All right. So tonight, like Chris says, I like to tinker and play with things and come up with different ideas. The mind's always going. I think I'm a little ADD, but I like to come up with things that I can build cheaper than what you could buy. If you're looking for different equipment and stuff, there's got to be a way around it that you can manufacture it, build it, or put it together cheaper than what you can buy it. So one of the things I got looking at when I was surfing on eBay one day was rear view cameras for your car. And I thought, isn't that the coolest little thing? What could I use that for? And you can buy them in different sizes, anywhere from 3-inch to 10-inch. And I thought, 3-inch is too small with my poor little eyes, but would a 7-inch ever be a cool little rig? Now, what would I do with it? So I bought the 7-inch, not knowing what I was actually planning to do with it, and showed up at the house. And of course, like a kid in the candy store, I got all excited and said, now I got to figure out what to do with this. And I thought to myself, well, I would like to make a self-contained portable video screen for my DSLR camera, or for my Malicam camera, or for an eyepiece camera, so that I don't have to look at these little 3-inch screens. I can look at something bigger when I want to focus my DSLR. Then I can do it all on a 7-inch screen instead of a 3-inch screen. And shopping at our favorite place that Chris and I have called Princess Auto, they sell these. They're very much like a Pelican case. They're watertight. This one here is about 11 by 7 by 8 inches. And it's a nice sized little case. And I went and I took that 7-inch monitor that I bought, and with some Velcro, I mounted it on the top hinge of the case. And I thought, now that's pretty cool. What do I do with it next? Well, they're a 12-volt monitor, because they run up 12 volts in your car. So taking a 12-volt 7-amp-hour lead-acid battery, I Velcroed that into the bottom of the box. I'm not going to tear the box all apart and show you, but trust me, there's a 12-volt lead-acid battery in there. And I started wiring things up. So I wired up the camera, or the monitor, to the back. I put a 12-volt power supply so I can charge it, or I can take power off it if I choose, in both directions. And it will happen to have, for the monitor, 2 RCA jacks, a male and a female. Well, I drilled both holes and brought them both on the outside. So no matter what kind of cable I'm using, I can still plug in as long as it's an RCA. And I thought, okay, that works good. Does it power up? And hopefully it powers up. Yes, it does.
All right.
The battery's not dead. So one of the cool things for it is it's totally portable. It's all self-sufficient, all on its own. Probably weighs about 3 pounds. But I can take my DSLR camera, and this particular camera just so happens to have the adapter that comes down to an RCA or an AV jack, the yellow ones. And it'll plug right into the back of this. And there you can see is the monitor. Instead of looking at a 3-inch monitor, I'm now looking at the camera on a 7-inch monitor. And if I push live feed, then,
Oh, wow.
as you can see, it shows the camera live.
Awesome.
And boy, I tell you, when you want to focus, it's a lot easier to do on a 7-inch screen than it is to take these old eyes and glasses and try to focus on a little 3-inch screen up here.
That's awesome, Mike.
So that's one use for it. You can take it, set it on the tailgate of your truck, or set it on a table somewhere whenever you want to go, and you're totally self-sufficient. And the other part is, if you're during the daytime, if you're taking pictures, people can walk by and look at the monitor on the screen. They don't have to look up here and see what's going on. So that was one use that I found for it, and it works really good, obviously. So continuing on with that, I said, well, I didn't build it just for DSLR camera. I want to have some other uses for it. So taking off the nice little protector, you can see here, I've added 2 cameras and all the little goodies and different plugins that go with it in order to make it work. So it's totally self-sufficient for doing video astrophotography. One of the cameras I got, this is a nice little rig, and I don't know if they're still in the market. They were around for years, made by Mead. It was called the electronic eyepiece. And believe it or not, these are kind of a cool little rig. They're monochrome, totally black and white. In here, it runs on a simple 9-volt battery, so it's self-sufficient camera. And it takes the RCA video jacks. So taking my wonderful wire that I have stuffed in my box, plug it into the camera, plug it into the back of the monitor box, turn the camera on, and you can see, hopefully you can see, let me turn this down, you can see the change
That's
on the
awesome.
screen. And then you take that, mount it into any scope you want. Now, these are a very small chip, so your image is going to be magnified and they are literally for looking at the planets. And you drop that in, and even on a 4-inch scope, I was using we did an outreach one time, and I was using a 4-inch Celestron scope, and I think it had a 900 millimeter focal length, and I was picking up Jupiter beautifully. And you could see the bands, you could see the great red spot, only in black and white, with this little video cam. So it's fantastic if you're doing public outreach and you don't want those little pieces of stuff that come off kids' noses or grabbing your eyepiece, moving it around like this. You can set it up, track the night,
I'm not sure what you
and
mean, Mike.
it'll be on your video screen. We all have our public eyepieces for that.
Yeah.
So that's a nice little setup for doing planetary. Now, if you wanted to get a little more sophisticated, these Meade electronic eyepieces. I don't know if they're still for sale out there or not, or if there's a newer version of it. But that was a great little eyepiece. You could also hook up Malancam. Anybody that's into astrophotography and talked or heard about video astrophotography, they've talked about the Malancam cameras, and they're a great little rig. This is the Malancam Micro that I bought from Chris. And in my little goodie box here, I have every possible adapter to go with it. So there's a BNC connector I put on. I plug the video in. Now I need power. Now I can either run it off the spare battery pack or the power off the back of the video box that I have. But as soon as you power it up, it should come on the screen, and there it is. Now this is great. I'm totally self-sufficient to do video recording, or after I throw all my pieces around the floor, while I'm watching it on the monitor, I bought what's called an Easy Cap adapter. It plugs into the AV jack on the back, the male one, sends a feed to a USB, plugs into your laptop, and now you're set up to do full video recording using Easy Cap. And Malancam puts out software where this camera actually steps up. It's not like stacking, but they call it step up. And it collects that much more light and puts your image up on the screen. And you can actually use these little cameras for deep space imaging. But
Nice.
putting the whole package together, it's a great little setup. It worked out well for me and still does. Everything is self-contained in the little box. And I have myself a portable video setup to take anywhere I want, star parties, down to the beach, public events. And it helps keep, like I said, those things that comes from little kids' noses out of your eyepieces.
Right.
And
Well, the other thing is too is that a lot of people can't see, like at the eyepiece themselves. They have trouble focusing and have trouble viewing what's in the eyepiece, especially with the sun when you're doing solar. And if you have a H alpha telescope that you're using for solar. So this is a great idea for that purpose for sure. And if you have a number of people that are gathered around your scope, you want to show them all something at the same time. This is another great idea for that. So
it works well when you're doing solar observing. Like you said, you can shove that in the eyepiece. You got the nice white sun comes up on the screen, and you put a little shade over this, and you can look in. It beats trying to look at the camera lens, or the camera screen down underneath if you don't have a flip out screen. Now you've got a 7-inch flip out screen, and you can set this anywhere as long as the wire will reach. So it works really good.
It seems to me that you had that down at St. Trest, I think, with Chris one time, and there was a fellow that he was in a wheelchair or something, couldn't get out of his car.
that's right.
And so you actually were able to walk that right over to his car. Was that the one?
That was it.
No, it's similar to this.
Yeah.
I built a wireless setup to do the same kind of thing. That'll be another show.
Yeah, that will. But same idea.
I do have a wireless transmitter. I wonder if I have it right here. This I purchased. It's a wireless transmitter again for your car, and you strap it to the back of your trailer if you're towing a trailer, and you can watch the traffic behind you if you are careful and don't want to get into an accident. But this transmits a Wi-Fi signal to your phone, and it does the same thing. The one end will plug into the back of the monitor, this end plugs into the AVI in the camera. This one plugs into 12 volts. That transmits a signal to your phone or tablet. And it was a tablet that I was using that I
That's
walked
what it
over
was.
that
Yeah.
night and showed the gentleman that couldn't get out of the car because he was a quadriplegic.
Yeah.
And he very much enjoyed the fact that he could see that view that the rest of us were enjoying that night. But yeah, that was the other setup there. This one makes it wireless.
That's worth
Fantastic.
the whole price right there, just to be able to offer it
Oh,
to
it
somebody
was.
who couldn't get to the eyepiece. Yeah. Because we've
Now,
done
you know,
that at star parties before. We've had people approach us with wheelchairs at star parties,
absolutely.
and we've had scopes that have been really high up off the ground, and we're only able to offer it to a couple of people, or they had to go see a couple of astronomers that had lower scopes. So this kind of an idea would really serve a purpose for those who are doing outreach, and you're in a location where you may have somebody that comes by with a disability, and you can certainly offer them the same view as you're getting through the scope through these tools here.
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
the neat part about this is I went on the photography site and I looked up a box similar to this. It was a video box for your DSLR camera, and they were asking $450 for it. This case I bought at Princess Auto. I think it was $39 on sale. These monitors are 7-inch, totally available for about $35. Another, say, $30 for a free battery, whatever you put in it, and you've just built this case for probably $120 max, as opposed to buying one for $400 online because it's official DSLR camera setup.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The same with this reverse camera system. If you want a remote systems, it's going to cost you hundreds of dollars. This was a $15 piece on eBay that I modified basically to send a signal from any of these video cameras to my phone or tablet. It was $15.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
you don't have to go out there and buy all the official stuff because it's going to cost you a lot more than it would to put something like this together.
Right. That's awesome, Mike. Great talk, buddy.
Right on. That's my show.
I'm just watching to see if there's any questions. Any questions for Mike here before we sign off from Mike and move on to Paul. Happy to answer any. Mike's happy to answer any. Of course, just slip Mike $99.95 and he'll build you one.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's $199.95. You got to make a little bit of money in there in between.
I got to go on these camera sites and start selling them, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. So we're going to try to do this as a weekly broadcast if Mike's willing. He's got a number of ideas out there. This one here is an excellent an excellent offering for anybody who's interested in outreach at all, and you want to offer it to people who may not be able to see what you see through the eyepiece. Certainly for planetary and for the moon and for the sun, it's a perfect option. Thanks so much, Mike. Appreciate that.
Welcome. It's what I do.
It is what you do, and you do it very well. I guess, okay, so from there, we're going to move into, Paul, did you want to do Rosanna's fun facts?
Yes,
Maybe next?
yes.
Okay.
That time of the show.
Yeah.
The only thing we're missing now, I guess, is a little bit of music or something. We got to come up with a little what do you call it? When the
Background
music
music?
belongs to something. The theme. Yeah, a little
Yeah, a
theme.
little theme, yeah.
Yeah. Or some kind of bump.
Rosanna's fun facts. Yeah, something like that.
With an echo,
Yeah,
the 3D effect.
there you go.
All right. Okay. Well, let's get into this week's Rosanna's fun facts. So let me share my screen first. And there we are.
There we are.
And for those people who were wondering who Rosanna is, well, there she is. That's Rosanna. And that's Rosanna who's putting all those fun facts together for us and sending us all this really cool teaser information. And so again, Rosanna, thank you very, very much for the input for this. This is absolutely wonderful.
Absolutely, thank you.
So for this week's Rosanna's fun facts, we're going to talk about, whoops, if I press the right button, I'm pressing the screen that you guys are seeing. Ain't nothing going on.
Oh, technology.
We're going to
Wonderful.
talk about the Spitzer infrared telescope.
Mm,
Now, until Rosanna mentioned this to me, to be totally frank, and here I'm a guy that does a lot of picture taking, and I wasn't familiar with this telescope. So, anyway, so this telescope was launched back in 2003, and it had an expected life of about 5 years. The mission was going to be about 5 years. Well, here it is 16 years later, and it's still out there. And it started out as a telescope it's an infrared telescope, so they were able to see all kinds of interesting things through nebula and emission through gases and gas clouds and emission nebulas that we couldn't see typically with the other type of telescopes. And so it was to the point where you could peer into the gas and dust and see these little baby stars called protostars being born. This was kind of what its mission was designed to do. But then they found out, because of its sensitivity, so between the work of the scientists and the astronomers, they found out this thing is an absolute gem for looking at exoplanets. So Spitzer has aided in identifying a system called the TRAPPIST-1, which a lot of people have heard about. And this is a system that's got 7 planets that's close to a cool star, and 3 of those planets are in what they call an inhabitable zone. So this telescope was, and not to mention the thousands of pictures and the tons of data that it's collecting. So that was responsible for being able to identify that. Also, the Spitzer has 3 different instruments on it. So it's got the infrared array camera, which is the IRAC, which is what it's called, and the IRS, which is the infrared spectrograph, and the MIPS, which is the multi-band imaging photometer for Spitzer. And all of these cameras can be used for different things. So it's really a very multitasking telescope. Now, this telescope actually is, I think it's 33 and a half inches large is the mirror that's in there. And it's a reflector design type of telescope. Now, it sits there amongst 4 other telescopes that are out there, which are all owned by NASA. And they're called the Great Observatories. And there's 4 of them out there. And Hubble is one of them. So this particular telescope does, in fact, orbit the Earth like Hubble and the other 2 that are out there. What's different about this one is because it's sensitive to infrared light. Infrared, of course, is how we perceive heat. So if it's seeing this light and there's a little bit of heat there, the heat itself can actually affect what it's actually trying to observe. So they have to actually have this particular telescope in orbit behind the Earth, between the Earth and the Sun, so that it actually can stay cool enough so that its own electronics don't interfere with the data that it's trying to collect. So, and of course, because it's being cooled naturally, it doesn't need to carry as much coolant with it. So it's just an unbelievable feat of what they've done with this particular telescope. Oh yeah, one other thing I want to mention is you can, and there is Earth-based infrared telescopes, but the trouble with infrared Earth-based telescopes is the atmosphere interferes or blocks a lot of that light that we can't see. So that was one of the reasons why they made this particular scope and put it out there, so that it would give much more clear views of what we can see here on Earth, but at the same time also can't get down here on Earth at the same time. So it was quite a design what they came up with. Now, this particular scope is slated to end on January the 30th this month. So if you want to see this little telescope before it goes down, you can go to the Spitzer Infrared Telescope site. There's a whole site there all about this telescope. It'll show you all the data that it's collected over the time that the 16 years has been out there. It'll tell you all about the scope. There's a countdown clock when it's actually going to be decommissioned, and all that kind of stuff. So so that's it for Rosanna's fun fact: the infrared Spitzer Space Telescope.
Now, is
Excellent.
that named because of the kids spitting on the eyepiece? The Spitzer telescope?
Well,
Is
it
that
might
something
be.
like I won't say the word, just like shot glass.
If they can get out to space to spit on it, I guess that'd be the trick. That's great. Perfect. Thank you again, Rosanna, for those
Yes, thanks
comments.
for that.
Yeah, excellent,
Fantastic.
excellent talk. Really like that. Okay, so I guess from there, maybe we'll go into a few photos first of all. So I did receive a few photos that were sent to me just through my Facebook page, but I wanted to let people know too that if they'd like to send photos in to me, you can send them to Sunday Night Astronomy Show at gmail.com. All one word, Sunday Night Astronomy Show at gmail.com. And if you do that, then we'd be happy to feature your photos here on our YouTube show. So let me get a look here and see if I can find what we did have to offer. Let me try to share my screen. I guess I am sharing my screen. Well, I'll share my screen anyway. And this is the one I want to share. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to stop sharing. Let's go back to where I was. Hang on a second. I think I can just drag and drop maybe. So let's see if this works. Okay. Let me get back here to where I want to be. Can you see that photo?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So this is Robert's photo of the Orion Nebula. Robert Cadet sent me this one yesterday, and he captured this through his Meade 10-inch LX90, I guess, telescope. And thank you, Robert, for that. That was taken just outside the city here. I've got a couple of shots here from Trudy Allman. And Trudy is in the St. Martin's area. This is the Milky Way shot she took back in June of 2018. A beautiful Milky Way from St. Martin's for sure. That's it's not a dark sky site, but it's very close to that. The values down there are very close to what we have for dark sky sites here in New Brunswick for sure. Elsewhere in New Brunswick, I guess. We were down there visiting on a star party, or like a mini star party, I guess, at the campground down in St. Martin's, and we had the sky just about like this, I guess, guys, eh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty well.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. It's a beautiful shot. Wow.
And
You're turning everybody into astrophotographers, Paul.
that's the thing. He sure is. Just hang on one second here. I'll get my other photos up here. I just got to get the right people here.
And you're a good teacher because they're taking beautiful shots.
That's it. Okay, so we've got another one here by Trudy. And this is of the crescent moon. And I guess this one was taken back in October. And I'm just trying to find my other ones here. Just one second. I'm just trying to get the right name here. I had a couple that were sent in to me today. And of course, Facebook is loading really slow. Never seems to load as fast as you want it to. There, Chris Burke.
Oh.
So I'm going to send you a couple here from Chris Burke. Here's one that he's done of the Andromeda Galaxy. So Chris sent me these today on my Facebook page. And Chris said he was using a Williams Optics Zenith Star Z71 coupled with a 0.8 focal reducer, field flattener, and a Canon 60D DSLR, all on top of an IEXOS 100 mount tracking system. Paul, that probably means more to you than it does me.
It's a nice setup.
Nice setup. So we've got Andromeda there, and these are just his first few shots, so he's
Wow.
on the learning curve.
Beautiful.
And here's one
Yeah.
of Orion
Yeah.
that he's taken.
Yeah. That Andromeda is nice. It's got nice dust lanes in it. You can see both galaxies. Stars are nice and round. Beautiful shot.
Yeah, the
he
field
said,
flattener makes a big difference.
He said
Yeah.
he's been following the page for a few months now and has been really enjoying the post, and he's just started to get into astrophotography. He wanted to share a few snapshots of the night sky, so
Awesome.
he captured these
Well
on
done.
January the 17th. He said they're not stacked images or altered using photo editing. He's not that advanced, he says yet. The three objects were depicted are the Orion Nebula, the Pleiades, which is I'm going to bring up right now.
Yeah.
And,
His Orion looks good too. I'm just seeing that now.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. Is that that's with a DSLR? Yes.
DSLR, yeah. He says they were
Yeah.
taking about 30-second exposures,
Yeah. Fantastic.
starting to get a
Yeah,
little
same
wash
camera
days.
as mine, 60D.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So that's great. So
So
thanks.
that's what's possible because I can't do that.
Yeah. I can't either. I don't
You
even
got my
try.
hopes up
Yeah,
again.
so
Yeah.
let's go back to Robert's picture here, the Orion Nebula. That was amazing, beautiful shot. And Trudy's of the Milky Way,
Um,
crescent moon. Yep.
you know, they're all fantastic images. And it's nice to see that people are actually getting out, not only observing, but taking the time, because it takes a lot of time to go out there and take a picture. It's not just a matter of clicking and you go home, as anybody who's done this knows. So when I see these kind of, you know, results from, Trudy and Robert and the other fellow you
And
mentioned
Chris,
there,
yeah.
Chris.
Yep.
Yeah, and like unbelievable. I'm looking at Trudy's crescent moon, and that is absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Gorgeous shot.
So yeah, the colors are so perfectly crisp.
Vivid.
Robert's been working with his M42, and
Mm.
he's done some amazing things with it. He's spending a lot of time experimenting, doing different things. Adding some star spikes for enhancements, and then working on colors and trying to bring out certain augmenting features. Anyway, I'm just absolutely thrilled that everybody's out there doing stuff. That's wonderful.
I'm very happy to show these on the show too. So if you do have any photos that you'd like us to have a look at, please send them through to Sunday Night Astronomy Show at gmail.com, all one word, and I'll be happy to check on the folder through the week, and be certainly happy to offer your photos up here for everyone to take a look at as well. So don't be shy, send them on in. We'd love to do this segment of the show for sure. And thanks for your comments there, Paul, as well.
Yes.
And let me just close this out, and I'll get us back to where I was. I'm gonna close all these windows.
Now
Wow.
see if we can get a camera hooked.
There. Oh. Oh no. Uh-oh.
In that hobby, no question about it. It's really refreshing to see somebody spending that much time and effort.
Paul, you back there? Hey, hello.
You want to wait for a bit?
Yeah, I did.
I'm here. I'm here.
I closed a bunch of windows and I closed one extra.
Yeah.
The important one.
The important
Yeah.
one. There we go. So I guess we're back now. Perfect. Okay. What are we at for time here? How are we doing for time?
Oh, we still
we're
have
at 8:30.
25 minutes. Yeah, we got
Lots of time.
Okay, let me. Maybe I'll take 10 minutes then, I guess, maybe, and talk a little bit about beginner's scope. Can we do that, I
Perfect.
guess? Okay. So I'll just click on myself here, and I should be able to. You guys should be able to see me there, okay? So what I gotta do is.
You're a pretty man.
Oh, am I ever? Pretty sight.
Snazzy.
Snazzy.
He's a snazzy man.
You're
Well,
snazzy
snazzy is
man.
all this background stuff that's in the background here. Yeah. Okay.
What kind of plant is that in the background?
It's a legal one. And it's growing awful tall. I know that.
Wow.
Okay,
I'm
let me
seeing stars
first
on
of
your
all.
wall.
Yeah. Let me move a couple of chairs out of the way here first of all, so I can get into the shot the way I want it to get into the shot. Mike and I.
He starts pushing the cabinet out of the way, I think.
Yeah, start rearranging
Let
the
me
furniture.
see. Yeah, let's get this down this way a little bit. There we go. How's that?
That's good.
All right. I can get in the shot here now, I guess. So here we are.
There you go.
I've got an Orion 4.5-inch Star Blast telescope here to show off. What it is a perfect beginner's telescope. So it's a tabletop Dobsonian reflector telescope. And what that is about a 450 millimeter focal length telescope. So it's a wide field f4. Let's take a look in here. Here's the mirror section. So you can see the mirror down at the back and the smaller secondary mirror up here at the front. It's a Dobsonian design, but it's also a reflector design. So the light goes down, hits the mirror at the back. It's a parabolic shaped mirror. All the light gets collected in the center. It comes back up, focuses on, and hits the small mirror out here, and then shoots it out this way to your eyeball right here by the focuser. Now the thing about this scope is it's a very simple design. So it's just basically up and down, and left to right, this way. So when you want to find a target in the sky, what you do first of all is use your Easy Finder lit illuminated little finder scope here. So I turn it on a button on the side of it here, and it actually projects a small red dot up onto the screen. And in the daytime or in the early evening time, I want to try to align the finder scope with the telescope so that the two of them are looking at the same thing. This is one step that a lot of beginners don't get comfortable with, really, is aligning your finder. And the way that I align the finder is that I bring the telescope, I use a wide field eyepiece in here. So an eyepiece with a high number gives you the widest field of view. So I would put, I say, a 25 millimeter eyepiece, which is what comes with this one. I believe it's a 17 and a 6 millimeter eyepiece that comes with this particular telescope. So I put the 17 in here, and I would get a wide patch of sky. I want to turn the telescope around until I point it at a, say, a light pole or a light standard, or a cell phone tower with a flashing light on it. That's always good. An object on the land, at least, that doesn't move around at all, and that's what we want to use for our target. So we bring it over close so that we have it at least in the eyepiece here. And then we want to take the finder and align the finder to the eyepiece. So we turn on the finder, bring on the little red dot, and on the side of the finder are two knobs. There's a knob here, and there's one back here. So one of them actually takes the red dot and moves it up and down, and the second one moves the red dot left to right. So we move those two dials until we have that red dot sitting right on the same point as what we're looking for in the center of our eyepiece. So if it is a cell phone tower with a red flashing light on it, we want our red light to be on that red flashing light. And then it should be in the center of the eyepiece. So then now you've got your finder scope and your eyepiece lined up. So when you want to find a target in the sky, all you're doing then is looking through the finder at that target. And if you find the moon or a planet, whatever, you should see it in the center of your eyepiece. That's as simple as it is for finder scopes. And this, actually, this finder scope, the Orion Easy Finder 2, is a great little scope, or a great little finder for this particular scope, and it's a great little finder for most scopes. Underneath here is a small little 2032 watch battery. We buy those by a package at the Princess Auto kind of store for, they get 10 of them in a package for about $10. So they'll last you a lifetime. And the idea of this scope, again, is the fact that it's very portable and it's very lightweight. So it also has a nice little handle on it right here. I can set my hand in the handle and pick it up. It weighs, I'd say, probably about 6 pounds or so. And I've got it set on a little TV tray right here, but you can actually buy these little tiny camp tables to set it on, or you can take it out to a picnic table if you're camping. It's great for that kind of use. It has a clutch assembly on the back side here that tightens up, so you can have that tight or loose, whatever way you like to move it around. It has a slot here for 3 eyepieces that you can sit in the front. The eyepieces that, again, that come with it are like these. This is a 25 millimeter, but it's similar to that. So all that has to happen is that you turn it around, remove the little plastic cap that sits in here for the protection for the eyepiece, and drop the eyepiece in place, and you're ready to go. It's that simple to set up. So if you're outside and you take a quick peek and you see the moon's out, well, you can grab this little scope and take it out for a couple of minutes and take a quick look at the moon or Venus. If you have a solar filter in the front, you can certainly take a look at the sun, look for sunspots. And it's got a nice little 1.25" focuser here as well, so you can get pretty good views out of this little scope. I've seen a lot of stuff through the scope. I've actually used this scope on a lot of my Facebook Live events that I've done with the moon offered through it. Now, the one thing about this scope is that, of course, it's completely manual, so as the Earth turns, you're going to have to compensate by moving the telescope. It's not going to track across the sky on its own. But the good thing I like about these manual style telescopes, if you're a beginner and even if you are an intermediate follower in it, is that it forces you to learn the night sky. So when you want to find something in the sky, you actually have to find your way around and find it. If you don't have a hand control, a computerized hand control that's going to find it for you. Telescopes are smart today. They have 30,000 or 40,000 objects in their database, and once you set them up GPS wise, and they know their orientation, they know where they're located on the planet, they can find anything in the night sky by themselves. That's great for the telescope, but the telescope already knows that and you want to learn those things on your own. So the best way to do it is really through a manual style telescope, just like this. Now this little scope here is called an Orion Star Blast 4.5. I did check out the price on this just today. There's a shop in Montreal actually that's offering them for $299 right now, plus taxes and shipping. So it's going to be closer to $400 landed price. And I think on Amazon they're running about $330. If you're on Amazon Prime, you can get it free shipping. So that's, it might sound like a lot of money, $400 for a telescope, but really it's an investment. And the fact is that when you're looking at a scope like this, you never have to upgrade it. It's always going to be the same scope. You may want to change out some eyepieces. You may be looking for other things for it, maybe a case for it, even if, but it does fold down very nicely. You don't even have to have a case for it, really. I just set it right on the front seat of my car when I head out with it, or I take it quickly out the back door and put it on my deck and take a look at the moon with it. But $400, it may sound like a lot of money, but it really isn't. If it lasts you a lifetime, you can spend a lot of money on any other hobby or any other toy that you like. And the thing is that these have a very good resale value too. So as long as you look after it, and astronomers usually do, when you're looking at these used. Actually, I got this one here actually used for $100. So it came with two eyepieces and the finder, and I bought it for $100. So keep an eye out on sites like Kijiji, and there's a site called Astro Buy Sell where we buy a lot of our used equipment in Canada here. There's also one in the States, of course, and there's one in Europe, I believe, too. So you can find stuff. People get into the hobby and they decide that it's not for them anymore, so they want to get out of it. So keep an eye out for little deals like this. But this little tabletop Dobsonian telescope is really one of the best little scopes that you can actually purchase, and it's a great deal for the money. And a Dobsonian telescope is going to give you the largest mirror for the cheapest amount of money as well. So check into something like this. I give this a very high review myself. I'm very happy with the purchase that I made with this, and I know that I could pass this on to children later on, or grandchildren even, if they're interested in the hobby. And again, very compact, closes up very nicely, picks up very nicely. Set it on a picnic table, or just take it outside and set it on your lap if you're sitting in a chair, and you get a really nice view of the sky with it. Just wanted to see if there are any comments coming in there.
Yeah, actually, Chris,
Okay.
Irene Doyle was asking, can you attach the phone thingy to it?
Absolutely, you can. Yeah, and actually, that's what I've done with the Facebook Live feeds that I've done. I don't have one right here beside me, but you would just attach it right here to the eyepiece. It has a clamp affair, and set the phone inside the clamp, and you're ready to go. You might want to adjust the clutch a little bit, tighten the clutch up a bit, so that it doesn't move around as much, and that's going to sturdy it up because it might tend to make the telescope a little bit top heavy out front. And to change that as well, all you have to do is take this little button here, this little clamp. If I loosen up that clamp, you can see the scope slides back and forth easy. So I can set it to wherever I want to make sure that the scope is balanced. So best thing is to turn it in a direction like this, try to loosen up the clutch to see if it is fairly balanced with the adapter on top, and you're all set to go. It gives you beautiful views of the moon and beautiful views of the planets too, for sure, with the adapter.
So the other thing that people are wondering, there was a fellow was asking, can you get? He has a small. It was a Lewis MCA. I have a small scope, but the mount is terrible. Can you buy just the mount? Robert Gadet said yes, you could, and you can, but you'd have to find out what kind of telescope that you have.
Right.
If it's one like this, Chris, could you maybe give us some ideas on what you could use to mount it on if you're out in the field?
Yeah, so there is actually, if you go to a website called Eyes on the Sky, there's a guy that has a design up there, and he used 3 2x4s, and he took a piece of 3/4 inch plywood and made a round circle with it, with 3 little indents for the bottoms of the legs, and he took 3 2x4s and came off of that with small hinges. Now it cost him about $6 to build the base for it. So you can use a little TV table like I have here now, a little camp table that you can get at Princess Auto, Canadian Tire, any one of those stores. Anything like that that just gets it at a comfortable height for yourself is certainly perfect to do. So I carry a small little folding camp table in my car. And the scope, when I take the scope out with me, it sets up in less than a minute. And I can have people come over and take a look through the scope very quickly. There again, if you're not at quite the right height, you can see that I just turned the eyepiece up. And if you have a small child who wants to take a look through, you can adjust the eyepiece down by loosening the clutch, and away you go. So,
Would you say that you could use even like a kitchen bar stool, a wooden one?
oh, absolutely, yeah. All you need is really something that's large enough on the base. So it's roughly about 12 inches around here on the bottom.
Mhm.
I'll try to tilt it here a bit and show the bottom of it. There's the bottom of it. So it has three little feet on the bottom. And if you get a base that's about 12 inches in diameter, that'll set right on that base. And anything that's anything around 30 inches to 36 inches, say, in height wise, that would make a comfortable height for you to view through. You could actually, of course, set it lower if you want, if you had a chair to sit in, if you want it
Mhm.
to be more comfortable. So yeah, it's
Um,
go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say also, if you're out, especially us people that live on the coast, whether it be east or western coast, we get a lot of moisture and whatnot in the air. Is that type of a telescope designed to kind of hinder the moisture by the night?
Well, what it does is the fact is that the mirror is so far down the tube. So if again we look at it, the mirror sits way down at the far end of the tube. So for moisture to get all the way down to the very end of that tube, it takes an awful lot, and it's very, very seldom that you'd ever see that this primary mirror down here would get dewed up. Now you may get a lot of dew on the front of the telescope for sure, and even the secondary, the little mirror that sits inside here, it's on a 45-degree angle. They
Hmm.
can get dewed up some as well, and also on your eyepieces. But you can buy dew heaters as well that actually can go on the secondary, and you can buy dew heaters that can go around your eyepiece as well. And they're just a small little band, little heater band that's powered either by a small battery, and they just keep the temperature of your eyepiece just above the condensation point, so that things won't dew up on you. So yeah,
Okay.
if you're having a very humid night, of course you're going to get some dew on it. But in most cases, you can get by with just the scope without any heater protection or anything like that, dew protection, with this design. Now you can also install what they call a dew shield, and there's on the front of this telescope there would be something about 8 to 10 inches long. And it's just a place where a column of air would sit. So it's a vinyl tube, basically. And when you snap that on the front, then the moist air has to get down that far before it gets onto your secondary mirror. So that gives you an extra hour or so if it's really humid before things start doing up. So
Okay.
hopefully that
And
helps.
also, Irene was asking the base that's on the bottom of the scope.
Hmm.
She said that it looks like it has a screw for a tripod. Is that just the bolt that holds it together, or is there actually something down there for a tripod?
Yeah, so this one actually does, it just has the bolt, but when you go to the larger scopes that are like 6 inch in diameter, they do have the assembly that you can bolt it right onto a tripod. Now you'd have to have a pretty stable tripod too. I do see them, but I would really recommend just going to that guy's site, Eyes in the Sky, and take a look at his little tabletop dob that he has. He has the same one, and he built several little tripod stands for them, and they're just out of plywood. Very simple design,
Mhm.
but very rugged as well. So there again, you can use them on a tripod, but they're fairly top heavy too, so you have to be careful that way.
Okay. And there was one other question.
Mhm.
How does it compare from Steve Nason? How does it compare to a refractor?
Okay, well, the difference between this and a refractor, well, one thing for sure is that the focal length is going to be different. So it's just an f4 telescope, so it gives you a wider field of view. It's going to be an upside down image, of course, for this one because a refractor is going to give you just the straight image. Uh, as far as dew collection goes, you'd probably get more dew on a refractor telescope because the lens is out front, it's out closer to the area where moisture is going to affect it. You'll probably get a sharper view through a refractor. Again, when you're looking through this one, you're going to get an upside down view, but really, like what's upside down and right side up in space? When the astronauts were flying around in the space shuttle and they're looking down at the Earth, I mean, they're looking up through the window to see the Earth above them. So really, up and down doesn't mean anything when you're in space. So once you get over that little part, a refractor, of course, is going to be able to be used in the daytime. This one is going to give you an inverted image in the daytime, so you might not want to use a scope like this in the daytime. But what this does too is that it provides you with the largest aperture for the least amount of money.
Mhm.
So because they use lenses in a refractor telescope, and grinding lenses takes a lot more work than it does to polish to get a mirror into shape. The refractor telescopes are much more expensive per inch of aperture. So if
Right.
you want something that's large, but you don't want to spend a lot of money on it, and the bigger the mirror, the farther away you'll see, because you'll be able to pick up dimmer objects. Then a reflector is what you want to go with for that purpose.
Okay.
And you'll find that the beginner's telescopes on refractors are going to be very tiny for the same amount of money as what you will spend on a reflector telescope.
Great.
So hopefully that answers some questions there.
One more.
Okay, sure. We'll see what
Irene asked,
how we
"Have
do
you
for
guys
time.
ever found a photograph? Ever found or photographed the ISS with your scopes?"
Not with my scope, but I have with my camera.
Yeah. It just moves so fast across the sky. Now there are people who do it. Apparently, they've I don't know, they've fixed up their motors on their scope so that they can have their scope track it that quickly. But most of the ones that I've seen are just a DSLR shot of them. So
Yeah,
What some people have done is they take a video of the ISS going by when you set up your scope and you know it's going to go in front of your field of view.
Hmm.
You take a video as it goes by, then you pull one frame out of that video, and there's your picture of the ISS.
right,
exactly. Yeah.
right, yeah,
Yeah, there's a number of people on YouTube that show that process. It's a lot of work, and you got to really know when it's coming by, where it's exactly where it's going to be. It's
right,
especially for those guys trying to catch that going over the face of the sun or the face of the moon.
right.
Saying
Yeah.
that I read in an article about two young fellows that decided to take an 8-inch LX200. They modified the motors to get the speed out of it. They had everything lined up. They had the ISS lined up. They tracked it perfectly, and they forgot to take the cover off the scope.
Oh no.
Haven't we all done that, eh?
Yeah, we've all done that.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah, absolutely. Hey, Chris, you did ask, or you did say during your thing about the lining up the finder to find a light pole.
yeah.
Yeah, how heavy?
Pardon me? Oh, you like light poles?
Well, light poles or heavy poles? I mean, what's the weight?
Oh, yeah, good one. Try not to
Oh,
blind
my
your eyeball when you're doing it. That's why I said cell phone towers, because they're just a red light, so they're not as bad on your eyeball. Of course, you're not going to find a red light or a white light around Paul's house at all, because you get them all removed.
That's right. Yeah, we should take a poll on that.
We wah, wah, wah. And here come the
Oh,
jokes. Okay. All right,
that's great.
so let's put this away for a second, and I'm going to get Paul to do a talk. As long as we're going along here, folks, and people are still interested, we might just carry this on a little bit longer than 9 o'clock. If you'd like to stay on, great, because I know we're getting into 10 to 9 right now, and I want to get my chair back here to be comfortable again.
Well, I was kind of sore. I got that tendonitis.
Oh, yeah.
10 to 9.
Wah, wah.
We're good.
You know, these are okay. They're okay, Paul, like at 3 o'clock in the morning at a star
I
party
know, I
when we're
know.
really not thinking.
No,
And
they're
we're
not
kinda,
okay at 3 o'clock.
Well, if you had half a dozen chocolate chip cookies and you're pumping in
Oh my gosh.
your
Get
10th
some
cup
of
of
those
coffee.
Get some of those frogs that Trudy makes. You
Oh
eat about
yeah.
10 of those, and oh boy, you're running
Oh
around
dear.
that field.
Whole different type
Who's
of
got something?
astronomy.
Who's got something? Quick. Yeah, they're a lot of fun. Speaking of
Indeed.
star parties, yeah, we do have a number of star parties that come up throughout the year as well here in New Brunswick. We have several. We're very fortunate to have several dark sky sites here in New Brunswick. So we do offer star parties, and those are events that the public are invited to. All you have to do is rent your campsite, and we're there with anywhere between 10 and 30 telescopes for a complete weekend. And we do that 5 times throughout the season, from early spring into late fall. So if you're looking for the dates on that, you can go to our website, rascnb.ca or nb.rasc.ca, and you'll see all of the dates for this year listed there. So Trudy calls them frogs. There you go, the chocolate frogs. So Paul, let's go back to your talk now. We're gonna do. You're gonna give us a talk on.
I don't know.
Oh, whatever.
I don't know.
How about we bring up your picture first of all?
Okay. All right. Let me see
All
if I can
right. Yeah.
give me a
Not that
moment to
old. Not that old thing.
get my bearings here.
Get my pic-
Get my
there we go.
mouse working. It's not been working lately. Oh, there we go. Gotta find me. There I am. I'll lock on me, and then we're gonna do this. And I guess what you're gonna see there. Okay. So can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm showing three different images of the Horsehead Nebula. And this was purely an experimental thing I was doing the other night. I was trying different settings on the camera, and I was trying to isolate a little bit of light in my observatory. Well, I have one of those little tents. It's like a little tiny little pup tent, and it's designed to put your laptop in, so it keeps the light from shining all over the field. And but it still has a fair bit of glow to it. So if you look at that picture on the far right, the dimmest one, you'll see runs of light going through it. And I'm crossing my fingers. That's what it is, because it's the first time I've seen it, and that's the first time I used the tent in there for imaging. So those little bands of light were a little bit of a bugger to deal with. But because of the detail that was in that image, which was only a couple hours worth of data, it was a night we were just having some fun on Facebook, and then the clouds came in and things got kind of murky, and but we had a laugh anyway.
Hmm.
And so I took that image, and then the image of the far left, I started working the image and tried to take out some of that banding. And these are some of the things that you'll get into when you're doing astrophotography. You could be, spend a whole night or two or three gathering data, and then put it all together, and then find out you've got these strange artifacts that you don't know where they come from. And rather than throwing the data away, you find ways to try to clean up the picture. And in Photoshop, you can buy these plugins called action tools, and it's really designed for. Actually, I could probably show you. It's designed for right there actions, and if you look on the side here, you can see all these different things that you can do with it. So this was designed by, I can't remember who put it together, but it's just short little shortcuts of all the different things that you'll run into when you're trying to clean up a photograph. For example, light pollution removal, or make stars smaller, because if you overexpose, the stars can blow it out a little bit. You can get some noise reduction, space noise reduction, or deep space noise reduction. So anyway, these are just some of the tools that you end up having to use um, in order to try to clean up what you see in that photograph on the right. So I was able to get rid of most of that banding, but with the sacrifice of a little clarity. So I ended up finishing up with that photograph that's in the center, and that was the one that I thought you could see most of the stuff better and represented the colors a little bit more true. So that was my thought process in this experiment, which was a very, very, very short acquisition time. Usually we're 5 to 7 to 10 hours on a target. That was just a couple hours before the clouds started to come in and the moisture started to murk up the sky. So yeah, so it's sort of one of those things where you're going to go out for the night and you're trying to figure out what clothes to wear, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
and yeah, so that's kind of what's going on with that photograph. So I ended up going with the one that's in the center, and that's the one I posted on Facebook.
Mm.
And Facebook's algorithm was kind enough to take care of a little bit more of the noise. So
Yeah, that's a lucky thing.
yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often. That's a fantastic photo there. There's a lot going on in that photo too. I mean, you're looking at the Orion molecular cloud complex in there. So you've got the Flame Nebula, you've got Alnitak, the star on the just
yeah.
above the flame there.
Let me just close a couple of these ones. I want to show you something very specific on this, because when I first thought I was going to image this, um, what I wanted to image was just the horse head itself, and
Mm.
maybe it's in that little bit of blue nebulosity beside it. So when you zoom in on it, what I was trying to get, you see those little tiny stars that are right in that are coming through that cloud,
Mm.
that black cloud that looks like a horse head. That's just a big black cloud that's sort of taken on that shape. But what I was going for, and I'll make it just a little bit bigger, was those little stars that you see right there, right with one right in his face, and one. Can you see that on the screen? I
Yeah, oh
can't
yeah,
tell.
yeah, we can see them.
Yeah, and then also to get all that faintness in all that little bit of wispy nebulosity in between. That's kind of what I was going for. But the closer you get into it, you can start to see some of that banding coming in. So the
Right.
image didn't turn out quite the way I wanted to when you blow it up. But when you kind of look at it the other way, it doesn't look so bad. But so anyway, that was my intent with that particular photograph.
Well,
But
I think,
but to get that and the flame at the same time, it's always a treat, right?
yeah, it's a beautiful spot of the sky to be looking at for sure. Orion has so many treasures up in that area, and it's perfectly placed right now too. It's in our southern sky, right around 6 o'clock, I guess, is when we start to see it popping over to the southern sky. So it comes up
Yeah,
really early, and this is the time like when you want to capture it too, because Orion is highest in the south, right around 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So,
mhm,
and the higher it is, the less atmosphere, I guess, you have to look through. The less
yeah.
pollution down at lower. Yeah. So,
Also, too, with that, what? There we go.
oh,
Also, too, with that is Alnitak, which is right here. That if you're looking at Orion, that would be the lowest star in Orion's belt.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the belt. That's right. The one farthest east. Yep.
Yeah, and it's an extremely bright star, and when you're trying to shoot something this faint for that length of time, it's a bit tricky to harness the light of that star because sometimes it just blows right out. So
Yeah. And that is a real good point because that's mentioned a lot when I was looking up the Flame Nebula and how they were capturing it online. That's
mhm.
mentioned quite a bit in there, and the fact that capturing the Horsehead the way you did as well, without Allen attack, they were blowing it all out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It can be a little bit of a trick for sure, but anyway, it I was fortunate enough to get something out of it. So
Yeah, beautiful.
That was a nice shot, Paul.
thank you. All right, let me
You can
just.
save anything. I'll send you all my stuff. See what you can
Yeah,
do with it.
absolutely. Do you want to show your wide field rig you're working on now, Paul?
Oh
Or
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Okay, yeah, I am a little excited about it
yeah,
because
I bet.
with the help of Mike Guyver last year. I'm just going to stop. There we go. Am I back?
Okay, I just got a couple of questions here for you, Paul. I guess so. Louise, MCA, is this a stacked photo or is it straight 2 to 3 hour exposure? He's asking.
It's a stack photo. There's probably I think there was 40 light frames, and I just used darks on it. I tried to do my flat frames with it, but for some reason I wasn't having much success with them. So I just went with I have a dark frame library built up, and that was a four. Each one of those four. How do I say it? Each one of those individual light frames were 4 minutes long. So whatever the math is on that, 4 minutes times four fours and 160 minutes divided by 60, and that's how many hours it was.
Okay,
Yeah,
excellent. Thank you. Carolina Sky Astronomy says that's a great image. Yes, it is. Paul does
thank
some
you.
Paul does some awful good work. He's his own worst critic for sure. He should be submitting these photos. I've told him many times.
We all have. He doesn't listen.
He doesn't listen though.
No.
Yeah.
So
Okay, yeah.
okay. Any other questions there, or do you
I,
want me
I
to show
think I think that's good. We'd like to see your wide rig that you're talking about.
Okay. So
There.
what I'm in the middle of building. I'm just going to move my chair so I can actually walk around this thing. What I'm in the middle of building is a wide field imaging rig, and that's why when you're looking at this thing, I just put this together started yesterday on it, working on it, and that's why the wires aren't done yet because I still got to put ends on these. Because every time you take one of your components, whether it's a heater or a focuser or whatever, you got to cut the end off because you're not plugging it in the wall anymore, and you're putting it into this power cells, which I'll cover that in a second. So that's why these wires aren't done yet because I'm not completed building this rig, but it's very, very close. So what it is really is in the observatory right now, I have 105 millimeter stellar view telescope out there, and I'm using it natively. So it's 735 millimeters focal length. And it's really wonderful, but I can't get a lot of the larger targets in completion without doing a 2 or 3 or 4 pane mosaic. So I wanted something that's going to give me a wider field of view than that, but something that I can just take my rig that's built like this one in there off and just put this one on. Because if you can imagine looking at this, if I was to try to swap out all the pieces from this to the other telescope, I'd be doing it for like 6 or 8 months because I'm not going to do that. It would take probably about a good day or 3 to put it together. So what this one is just the heart of the whole thing is this little telescope right here, and it's an Orion. I'll do it this way. It's an Orion 80 millimeter triplet, and it's got a native focal length of, I think it's 480 millimeters. Yeah, 480 millimeters is what this one is. So it's pretty narrow to begin, or pretty short focal length to begin with. So I can get some really wide stuff. I've had this scope for a long time. I got it from one of the people from our club years ago, and that's what I was actually doing a lot of my older M31 shots and stuff with, and it takes the whole Andromeda galaxy no problem. And you just have to put a focal reducer on the back just to make it a little bit wider. So that's what's in the heart of it. And I'm using just a little guide scope on top, and that's just a scope that basically just you focus it on a particular star, and it keeps it locked on the star, so that if your mount starts to do a little something funny, then it sends little guide pulses down to the mountain and keeps it locked on that star too. And that's what keeps our stars nice and round for those nice long exposures. So that's a guide scope. And then on top of that, let me just roll this over here. Balance pretty good now. So on top of that, see if I can do this. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can see that.
Yeah, sure.
So on top of that is this is a little box that's going to control my focuser. Now I've got a moonlight focuser I'll be putting on the back, and it's automated, so that when I'm sitting in the house, I can do all the focusing and stuff from here. I don't have to go out to the observatory to do that. So that's what this thing runs. This is the little dew heater that puts there's little straps that are on both telescopes. And like Chris talked about earlier about the little scope that he was showing, that it doesn't have issues with dew because the mirrors are so far back. But with these telescopes, the mirrors are pretty much right on the face. So this particular one here has got its own little dew shield built onto it, but it only comes out a few inches. So if you're pointing upwards, it'll take no time for it to dew up. So that's why we put these little straps on there. And what they are, they're just little heaters. Just keeps the lenses a little bit warmer than ambient air temperature, and that'll keep the dew off of them. And you have to control them with this. So that's what that part is there. And that's what's on top of the scope. And then on the side, on this side, let's see if you can see that. So I've mounted a little USB 3.0 hub, and you can control it. I think you can put in like 10 different USB things on it. And the whole point behind using the USB hub is that I can take all of my components that are here, and instead of running them down to the ground and out to my my computer, it makes quite a messy snag. So all that happens is I have one data cable coming down from this USB. That's the only thing that's coming off of the mount. Everything else is all tucked nicely away and going into here. And then on the other side, to power everything up, is the power distribution center. So what this is, it's just a little box that's right here. And you can buy these, and the ham operator has been using them for years, and they're called rig runners. And this one's not a rig runner brand, but it's a rig runner. You know, Band-Aid makes bandages, and so does a bunch of other companies. So so this one here will power up to 8 different things and up to 40 amps of power. So I can supply power to everything up here, no problem. But what that does, the advantage is it takes all of these things that require power, and it manages it all from one box. So again, nothing has to drop off the telescope. So when this is all set up and running and ready to go, the only 2 wires coming off of this telescope are the power wire from this side going down into the little box that I'll have here to fire it up in the observatory. And on the other side, it'll have just one wire that manages the data. And then these 2 wires just go down, and they go into my pier, and then they just run off into the thing. So that's the beauty of this. It's totally automated. There's only 2 wires coming off it. If I want to take it out in the field with me, rather than tearing it all apart, I just simply unbolt it from the mount right here, and I pick the whole thing up, put it in a little case, and off I go to my dark sky site. Just put it back on the mount, and it's ready to go. So yeah, so that's my my project I'm working on right now, and that should be done probably by this week. I should have it all done. I got.
Are you powering? Are you
Sorry.
powering the DSLR camera off the Rig Runner as well?
Yes, I can. The DSLR camera has a different voltage than most everything else. Everything else out in the real world has like a 3 amp voltage. I think the camera I'm using in the thing's got a 3 amp, but these I think have a little different voltage. But you can get a little adapters for them that you plug in the wall. And I have to check and see if I'm going to snip the end of that and go directly into this, or am I going to have to feed that other thing? Because I'm thinking the voltage is a little different on the DSLR.
I
Because
was
I
saying, because I think you can buy the adapter that'll plug into the battery to run off 12-volt if you wanted to go that route.
yeah, that's what's in there now. I've got one of those. I don't know if it's in there, but that's what I use on this out there.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't use batteries on it at all out there. So yeah, so that would be if I'm going to use that camera. But I've got a CCD camera that I'll be putting on here. This was just sort of just kind of getting it together and putting the piece together and trying to measure things out and all that stuff. So I'm excited about this one. It's going to be a fun rig. But
Absolutely.
I did want to mention one thing where I got some Mike Guyver stuff going on. First of all, Mike was very, very generous on my first rig, and he came out and actually soldered all of these Anderson pole connectors together. It's a laborious job, but it has to be done right. And because you know, if you don't solder these things up right, you can fry your equipment pretty quickly. So you got to be quite careful when you do it. But I actually got the chance to watch him while he was doing it. And this time around, I took it on myself based on what Mike had showed me. And so far, I haven't plugged it in yet, but I think it's going to be okay. And
I want to see
the
that.
yeah. And the other thing was these little copper spacers that you see in here. Mike is always thinking of stuff like, you know, he's going through Princess Auto or Canadian Tire, and he's looking at things like he would go to a plumbing department and think telescopes.
Yeah.
That's what Mike thinks, right? He goes to a McDonald's and thinks buttercups, little buttercups, or eyepiece protectors. I mean, come on. So anyway, so I'm starting to think like Mike. So I'm trying to think, what can I use as a spacer without going and buying the ADM spacers that cost me $150 easily to put a couple of spacers in here. So I ended up going to Kent's, and these are just copper pipe couplers. So if you're marrying two pipes together and you just solder the two together, they're just little couplers. I thought that's the perfect spacer. So I got four of them, and they're about probably an inch and a quarter, inch and a half, and it's just the right spacing. So all I did was just I went to the department where they had all the screws, and I bought the right length bolts. And so that all spacer system for all four of these, plus I have four more for another bar I may put up on top of this, and all the screws and bolts together cost me probably $6.
Which
Mike
means
Welcome
you
to
Guyver,
the
can,
club.
which means you can buy another telescope now.
Mike Guyver's the guy. Well, you got to do. He's going to do
Yeah.
more segments. I'm telling you, save you a ton of money.
Yeah, well, that's the
Anyway,
thing. He saves you all this money, but then you spend it on bigger stuff, right?
you
So
do,
you really don't save it. He ends up spending on more expensive
but
stuff.
he allows you to distribute it
Absolutely,
where you want to
absolutely.
put it.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
That's it, folks. That's my new rig that I'm working on.
That's excellent, Paul. Well, I can't wait to see that up and running. That's going to be great.
Yeah, nice rig.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so we're into about 9:15 right now.
Oh wow, we're doing
Well,
great.
we're really moving along. If you want, we can take just a couple of minutes to offer what's going to be up in the sky this week with Stellarium, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I'll go back to sharing my screen here for a second. And I'm going to share screen one. I think I'm back up there. And I'm going to see if Stellarium shows up here for us. Does Stellarium
There it
show
is.
up there? You got it? Okay, great. Good stuff. So all I wanted to do really was talk a little bit about what's coming up over the next few days. This is the program Stellarium. Now, if you go to a website called stellarium.org, you can download this program for free. It's just a few steps to set it up. If you go in here under location, you can set up the location where you are, on the planet. And once you do that, you've got the sky laid out for you. So very simple to use. Right now I've got the date and time set up. So here we are tonight at 6:30 tonight. And we can see that this is the orbit now of Venus, which program allows you to do as well. But the moon is just about a day old right now, so it sets very early in the evening at 6:30. If I advance ahead a day, we're going to see that the moon is going to start creeping up though. And when you get into, I guess this is Tuesday night, we've got a nice pairing here of the moon and Venus. And if we zoom in a little bit on Venus, which I'm going to try to do now without moving too much around, I'm going to keep zooming in. Just want to show something. And maybe it's not going to pop right up. And it might not pop right up. There was, I might have to go back and find Neptune. Let's do a search. Neptune.
As long as you spell it right, it's easy
There
to
we go.
find.
Yeah. There it is. So you can see where I've got this little crosshairs right now. Neptune is right beside Venus over the
Oh,
next
yeah.
few days. So you should be able to pick up Neptune and Venus in the same set of binoculars for sure, and probably in a wide field scope for sure. So look for a little soft blue star. It's not going to appear pinpoint like stars normally do. It's going to be like a soft little ball. And if you do see it, you've found the planet Neptune. And this is really one of the best times to find it because you've got another object that we're familiar with in the sky that's very close by. So give that a try over the next few nights. So anyway, with our moon and Venus, we've got a really nice crescent moon here. At that day, I guess we're only 3.6 days old in the Tuesday. So we've got about 14% illuminated, so a very nice crescent alongside Venus. Very nice photo opportunities there, Paul, I guess.
Yeah.
And here we, as we move along through the week, of course, the moon is going to be up about an hour later each night. But still, even when we get up to around Thursday, we still get crescent moon and Venus very pretty in our sky. And that's going to be the same case if I move this ahead a month. Well, it's 1 month, sorry, not 2 months. Let's go 1 month. And if I just went ahead a few days, you're going to see that Mercury is actually coming up as well. But the moon will pop up here again. So we'll get the same view again next month, is what I was trying to get to. Let's pull ahead here to the 26th again just for a second. And if I move ahead a bit higher in the week, Mercury actually should start popping above the horizon there. It might be because I haven't got the time quite right. There it is. So moving it ahead to, say, 6 o'clock, we should see Mercury starting to pop up. Now, if I click on Mercury, I'm going to see that its orbit is just up and back down again. So it barely breaks the horizon, but it is possible to view it. And if you've never seen Mercury through the eyepiece, you can bring it in and you can see that it's a phase just like the moon is. So Venus and Mercury are both inferior planets, so we'll get to see them as phases just like the moon. Now Mercury's a hard one to pick up. Be careful when you're picking it up with this, make sure the sun is set well out of the way before you start using binoculars or a telescope to try to find Mercury. But it'll be climbing up in our evening sky for the next little while anyway, for about the middle of February or so before we lose it completely. So try that one. Let's go over to our morning sky just quickly, and we'll set our time up for tomorrow morning. Well, tomorrow morning will be this way, I guess. And what's coming up in our morning sky now is, of course, we've got Mars up, Mars and Antares. Mars is the reddish planet. Antares was the Greek word for the rival of Mars. So when Mars and Antares were in the sky together, they look almost the same. Antares is a very large red supergiant star, but Mars has the same pretty well color. So take a look for that early in the morning at about 10 to 7, I guess, Atlantic time. And then you'll also see Jupiter down close to the southeastern horizon. Now, over the next little while, Jupiter is going to continue to rise as our days get a little bit brighter earlier. So we have to take this time back to, say, 6:30, which I'll try to do here. And we'll move it ahead into February. And as we move into February, look at what we've got coming up. So we've got a really nice sky around the middle of February. We're going to have our moon as a waning crescent, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. So Saturn is going to appear up in our southeastern sky very soon as well. So watch for Mars right now. Give it another couple of weeks. Jupiter will be up high enough to view through a telescope and binoculars, and then right behind it is going to be Saturn. So that's what we've got coming up over the next week or so. Just the moon and planets. That's all I really wanted to talk about tonight, because I know we want to get on with the show a little bit. So I'll bring me back to stop sharing my screen. And just looking for comments before we sign off. I guess we're all good. So, gentlemen, I guess we're into 9:20. That's a good show. An hour and 20 minutes. Thanks, guys, so much again for another great evening here. And
No
thank you
technical
for
difficulties.
no technical. Just the once. I hung up on you once and I got back though pretty quick.
Oh yeah,
Oh
that's
We
right.
never
yeah,
noticed
there
it.
was
We
one.
never really noticed it.
Damn, I wish I hadn't noticed it.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to go great.
Don't forget to push the like button if you liked it,
Exactly.
and share it if you want to. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber.
Yep.
And we absolutely enjoy bringing this to all you folks out there.
Yep.
And like Chris mentioned earlier, for me anyway, I have a passion for the pictures. So, keep taking pictures and send them in. Because, I mean, this is the first good run of photos we've had, and
Yep.
I'm excited.
Yeah, we're very happy to show them. We've got a great critic here in Paul. But Paul's not much of a critic. He's just a good talker.
Just
That's
keep
it.
your scopes pointed up.
Yeah. Keep your scopes pointed up. Oh, do we have to go there? Anyway, we're
Keep your
gonna
stick on
really
the ice.
shoot.
I mean, it's
We're really gonna try hard for a clear sky next week. Here we are in our 12th night again, and we've only had 2 clear nights out of 12, but we still got it by pretty good. We've had lots of good talks, and if there are anything that you'd like us to cover in topics like
Yes.
this, please leave it in the comments section. Come back and leave a comment later on. I go back in usually every couple of days to see if there's new comments. And give us a comment on what you'd like and what you don't like about the show. If there's something that you want us to spend more time on, please let us know. We're happy to. That's what we're here for. We're here to, and that's why we're doing a live show. We could take this show, record it, put it up on YouTube, but we don't get the interaction that we're getting this way. And this is what we like the most. We want to be able to do live show, get your questions in, have us hopefully be able to answer them for you. Chris, can you write the email for the pictures in the
Oh,
comment section?
yes.
Yes, I can. I can put that up there. So it's just Sunday Night Astronomy Show at gmail.com. All one word, Sunday Night Astronomy Show. But I will put it up in the comment section once the video gets uploaded to YouTube. It usually takes about a half hour after we're done live here before YouTube gets the video uploaded, encoded, and put up on the page. So that's it for this week. We're going to hope for a clear sky next week so we can do some live stacking again. Why we really started the show in the first place, but
someday.
we're still carrying on. So we've got lots of segments here. We've got Rosanna's fun facts. We've got Mike MacGyver's a new section here. We've got a photo section. We've got Paul's excellent photos and pictures that he's offering. And we'll keep the talks going. So again, if you have anything that you'd like to add to it, please go ahead and just add it in the comment section. We'd be happy to do a talk on it. So for that, I'll call it a night for this evening. Thanks so much again, Paul and Mike, for your excellent offering here tonight. And folks, we'll see you all again. Take care, and thanks for joining us.
Good night, all.
Have a
Good
great
night.
week.